For a span of about 3 or 4 months, my response to anything Renegades related was, "Ask me when we know more," or "Ask me again in 6 months," or, most commonly, "Ask me later." Well, later is now. The expansion has been out for about 2 weeks, so here's my review, and this time I'm doing it all in one go to save you a month and a headache. Before anyone gets impatient, yes, I will be going over the nature of this expansion, being a third-party IP expansion, but I'm doing that later, so hold tight. Destiny tends to knock it out of the park with the campaigns, or at the very least, they tend to be at least good, with some notable exceptions. And I'd say the Renegades campaign was pretty good. It was pretty good. I didn't think it was crazy or anything, but it was an enjoyable experience. I will go over that more later, but it was pretty good. Tharsis Junction, the new social space, is just it's just incredible. Social spaces aren't really things that people go feral for that often, especially since you really don't spend that much time in them, but people really seem to like this one, and you know what? So do I. This is awesome. This is the perfect lawless high-tech space western vibes for everything that's about to go down. 10 out of 10, no complaints here. In terms of the campaign proper, I had a lot of fun playing it. The gameplay never felt like it was stagnating or held up for any reason other than we need to let these characters yap about story beats. If there was yapping, it was done underneath, not over top of the gameplay. I personally found the difficulty to be pretty standard as well, maybe a little under what we're used to, but that was not from a lack of ad density, I will tell you that much. In terms of the Lawless Frontier missions, I enjoyed getting to preview the expansion without any of the pressure of the real thing. Though with a competent group, there's not that much pressure, but stay on topic, campaign right now. When it came to the more traditional campaign-style missions, I thought the difficulty and the density was very solid. It might have actually been a little too much if you weren't running a solid ad clear build like I was, but they were very fun and engaging. I especially enjoyed the final mission. The Briggs felt really fluid to control and also very powerful, especially when compared to the heavy metal controls from Episode Heresy. Those felt a little clunky, though that might have been for balance reasons. We do eventually get out of the brig to fight with our guns and get some more traditional gameplay before we go fight Premier Loom, which admittedly I thought the fight was a little underwhelming, but that's also because Loom is not nearly as hyped up as much as he needed to be, but I'll get back to that. The good news is that this final boss is followed by the most badass vehicle segment in a video game ever. Everything was just incredible. The atmosphere, the gameplay, the controls. I never thought that I would be drifting on walkers in this game, and yet here we are. Incredible stuff. I'm gonna give the gameplay a solid 9 out of 10. It wasn't perfect, but it was really good. In terms of the story, we got something much more down to earth than Edge of Fate, which I think a lot of people appreciated, self included. The premise that we are given is that a new faction of Cabal, the Barrent Imperium, has popped up on Mars out of seemingly nowhere, headed by Premier Loom and Dredge and Bale. Drifter is given a vision by the Nine, or more likely, one of the Nine. No, not that one. One as in one singular. I just now realizing how confusing that naming scheme is going to be going forward, and yeah, that's tough. Anyway, Drifter decides to go check it out and or stop the bad guys, hopefully both. And he decides to take his girlfriend, Eris, and Ido, who is apparently really making a name for herself. The Vanguard wants to make sure that we don't get too crazy, so they send us with Honor, a Praxic Warlock, as our babysitter. We open scene on the derelict getting tractor beamed by an Imperium ship. Drifter gets captured. We go save him before he gets turned into a fancy ice cube, along with the encrypted data drive that we need to decrypt to figure out what the hell Bale and Loom are actually up to here. Along the way, we also learn that the Barrent Imperium is far more technologically advanced than they should be by now. It's later clarified that Loom is actually a part of Keitel's ascendancy, but disappeared with a legion a few years back and is obviously now very beefy. We get a pretty cool fight scene between Honor and Bale, and we get taken to Tharsis Junction, where crime syndicates come to hang out. Oh, and Spider. Spider is also here, because Lawless contested territory is kind of his thing, in case you didn't know. As we progress through the story, we learn that Bale is in cahoots with Six to create Nightfall Station and his Imperium, and that being an emissary for Six has taken a massive toll on him physically, with his face and apparently part of his liver having been replaced with some kind of metal, since this guy was never meant to be an emissary for any of the 9, and even one of them is apparently really bad. As the story progresses, Bale fires his super weapon directly at Tharsis Junction, which instantly kills every single Guardian and Ghost there. Ido, however, face tanks the thing and is perfectly fine, aside from the whole being traumatized thing. We later learn that this is something called Eclipse Energy, which has the power to eliminate paracausal souls, which would be light and darkness alike. At least, that is how I understand it. Someone yell at me if I'm wrong. Bife, I'm sorry. The reason he's doing this is because he doesn't think Guardians should rule over the last city, seeing as they are effectively immortal, near godlike, and unelected. And you know what? He makes some fair points. But I think we can all agree that genocide, maybe isn't the best way to make his point. So we go find all the things we need to decrypt the data drive that has the information that we need to explode Nightfall Station. Along the way, we do also learn what happened that led to the Imperium being able to develop so fast. The Outer 9, that being 5, 6, 7, and 8, only want to liberate themselves from the gravity of their planets. They don't really care that much about us and are actually openly hostile at times. 6 specifically seeks out Bale and Loom and uses time dilation in a specific area of Mars to give the Imperium 30 years to develop. We finally confront Bale with the help of Drifter, who's been working from the inside this whole time, and when Drifter shoots Bale's hand off to bait out his ghost, we learn that Bale isn't even a Guardian. He's just a guy with a gun, which makes everything that he's done even more impressive. This ends in our final confrontation, where we fight off Loom and then go to Nightfall Station to cause it to overload and self-destruct. However, both Loom and Bale are left to their own devices, neither having been killed or captured, so just -1 hand for the Barrent Imperium. In terms of how I liked the story, I thought it was pretty good. I enjoyed the much smaller scale than Edge of Fate, whereas this was more about the interactions between Bale and Six rather than the 9 entirely. We also gained some more insight as to what Bind the 9 from the Edge of Fate campaign stuff potentially might mean in some of the post-campaign story. The going theory is that each of the remaining members of the 9 could be bound to a mortal body as an emissary, with Bale being a very strong candidate to bind 6 to, but that's all theoretical, so don't get too invested in that. Once again, good job story team. I thought the characters were really well done, and I was genuinely invested in everyone's story, except for maybe Loom, who, in my opinion, got done pretty dirty in the lore department. Blue, Drifter's ghost, is just incredible. I don't know off rip who did the voice work for Blue, but you deserve a gold star, a thumbs up, a 10 out of 10, just everything. In addition, we do see more of Drifter and Eris's relationship, which might be the first case of a heterosexual couple being relevant in an in-game Destiny story, which is really funny if you think about it, but I'm gonna move on before people get mad at me. Renegades brought us a new activity in Lawless Frontiers, which has us completing various objectives on Venus, Mars, and Europa, and consists of 3 different mission types. Each planet also has a chance to be contested territory, and completing a priority contract, which is basically a rotating set of quests daily, will secure the territory for your allied syndicate. I'm not going over how the syndicates work too much. You ally yourself with 1 syndicate per day, getting you bonus reputation. Completing ranks gets you stuff like shipments, access to higher tier abilities, and certain Praxic Blade mods. You earn reputation by completing contracts, and you can earn rep for any faction by depositing dark matter ingots at Tharsis Junction. My take on the activity is, it's fun. It does get a little repetitive if you're just throwing your face at the thing over and over and over again, but unless you're doing nothing but that, I don't think it should be too big an issue. It feels just hard enough where I have to activate at least a few of my neurons, but not so hard that I have to activate literally all of them, just to white-knuckle the thing and survive. Enemies also scale up as the activity goes on, so the amount of brain cells you activate can slowly ramp up rather than just being pedal to the metal right away. The two higher difficulties can also be invaded in contested territory, which is fun and very interesting, but as of the time I'm writing this, there are some balance issues. But the good news is that most of those problems are just balance issues, and I do think that they will be fixed later, but it's worth addressing. Starting off with the few non-balance related issues that I have, invasions happen way too quickly and just feel kind of unimportant. They seem to pretty much always happen right away or pretty damn close to it. I understand that you can't have it happen too late, otherwise you risk people moving to a new objective midway through, but honestly, I don't even think that that would be that big of a deal. It also makes the invasion super predictable, and I think it would be more fun if it was a little bit more random to keep you on your toes. The other issue that I have is just how fast these things can happen. There are times when the invader enters, gets 3 kills, scoops all their emblems up instantly, and is gone in what feels like 30 seconds. And there are other times where the invader walks in, gets their teeth kicked in, and then is gone in also what feels like 30 seconds. Granted, this only tends to happen when one side just completely rolls the other, but with how unbalanced the whole thing can feel, that happens more than you would think. The Renegade abilities are, well, some of them are pretty broken on Invade. The Rejuve just gives you free super energy for every single engagement. The Pike vehicles feel absolutely hopeless to fight without crazy aim or some kind of ability. The Deflector Dome feels like it has pretty much zero counterplay outside of waiting. And the worst offender, in my opinion, is the Behemoth, which just feels like an instant win button if your opponent isn't accounting for it. However, once those issues get fixed, which I imagine they probably will in an upcoming patch, the invasion aspect should feel much more stable and tactical. Moving on to the sandbox aspect of things, let's talk guns. Initially, I kind of hated the blasters because they were just so different to everything else, but I do think I've learned to love them, and most of them feel pretty good. The new SMG can roll target lock, which PK Titans are absolutely frothing at the mouth over. Uncivil Discourse is a menace in PvP environments, and is apparently doing silly things with Lucky Pants, which led to it getting disabled for the contest dungeon. Also, yep, sorry, Warlocks, we're getting kind of hung out to dry again. And the rest of the weapons feel pretty good, though I don't think any of them are superstars outside of Uncivil Discourse for right now. Astral Horizon is a pretty insane PvP shotgun from back before I started HRT, so it's a pretty deep cut, and Riptide is notable for its chill clip roll that can now come with auto-loading, so you don't even have to manually reload to cosplay as a New England Blizzard anymore. The notable improvement on these, however, is the fact that this gear is now tiered and has been updated to the new gear system, meaning it's now much more relevant for endgame content. All good stuff there. Don't think anyone's going to complain about that too much. I haven't looked into the new non-blaster weapons yet, but we do have another horizontal fusion frame in the game, which feels interesting. It definitely takes some adjusting, but I think someone out there will probably appreciate it. The dungeon weapons aren't out right now, so obviously I can't give my feedback on those, but if that's a thing that people want to hear my thoughts on, let me know. I'll make a video. In terms of the ability pass, hunters are relevant again. Y'all are eating good right now. Shadow Shot is maybe relevant, Golden Gun is actually doing stuff, and everything else just got an all-around buff. Sentinel Titan also got massive buffs, specifically to Sentinel Shield, and it's actually pretty good from what I can tell. It got massive offensive capabilities and does big in super regen. Not only do you get a decent amount of time in it, you also get 2 really big shield throws, and the effects your teammates get from the block is just downright absurd from what I can tell. Needlestorm got slightly smarter on higher difficulty enemies, and Metiodoxia got a pretty decent buff that might make it viable, though currently Needlestorm is scaling off the grenade stat, but that's almost definitely a bug and will almost definitely be getting fixed. And when that happens, I think that Nova Bomb is still going to be the more consistent and viable choice with Star Eater. I do have one concern with the ability pass that I don't think anyone else has really mentioned from what I can tell, and that is that this is just a pure power creep update. Like, there is one nerf in this entire thing, and I worry that if we keep doing these kind of patches, a lot of content's just going to get power crept out of relevant. Having said that, I did play the new GM Vanguard alert, and I am happy to report that this game is still very capable of kicking our asses, and I hope they do more stuff like this in the future. In terms of the everything else of the sandbox, Rocket Pulse has got a significant nerf, now having about half a magazine less in reserves, and you feel that way more than you think you do. It feels like you really have to make every shot count with the Rocket Pulse, and you can't afford to waste ammo anymore, which I think is a good thing given how dominant they were, and to a lesser extent, still are. Scout mods have returned, generating a smaller brick of ammo for your team every time you generate one via the ammo meter, and it feels just so good to have them. No longer do I have to feel like I'm throwing by doing mechanics, since I'm at least getting some cash back rather than nothing. Assuming my teammates have scout mods on. So I guess it's time to get good at bullying. Fusion rifles got a pretty decent buff, with most charge times going up by a slight amount, but damage also went up much more than charge time did, so overall, good change. I don't think fusion rifles are going to be crazy good or anything this season, especially since they're not supported by the artifact, but with a few more tuning passes, anything is possible. Still Hunt Goldie now does, get this, 40% more damage when used with Celestial Nighthawk than it previously did. This is a complete reversion of the nerf that it got from Final Shape. You know, back when it was crazy broken OP. Yeah, have fun with this while you can. This will not last. Everything else in terms of the sandbox was either too specific or not really relevant to be worth mentioning. If you really care that much, go check out the patch notes for yourself. The dungeon, Equilibrium, isn't out at the time I'm writing this video, but if you're watching this on release day and the video doesn't get delayed for some reason, I am probably live in the contest dungeon right now. I am also planning on making videos specifically about my experience in the dungeon, both contest specifically and as a whole. It's also going to be my first real delve into contest mode, so that should make the video very interesting. So the question of the day is, are we so back? My answer is, not quite, but from a gameplay and sandbox perspective, it is a step in the right direction. I think the gameplay is fun, the balance changes are both fun and exciting, and the build crafting is some of the most interesting it's ever been. And now I'm going to get to the part that people either love, hate, or are just completely apathetic towards, which is the crossoverness of the thing. Some people saw that the expansion was Star Wars theme and instantly despised it. And you know what? I think that's completely fair. Some people want to play straightforward, good old-fashioned Destiny, and I don't blame you. You can absolutely feel the Star Wars-ness of the thing when you play it, and there's not really a whole lot of getting around it. If you don't like Star Wars for whatever reason, you're probably not going to like this expansion, and I think that that's fair. But if you either like Star Wars or don't really have an opinion on Star Wars, I think you're going to probably be just okay with it. Or you'll find that it even enhances the experience if you're that into Star Wars. In terms of vibes from the community and my personal opinion, I think people are good on not having any more official third-party IP expansions, at the very least for a little while, and Bungie has said they plan to hold off on doing something like this for now. So the question that needs to be answered is, Renegades worth your hard-earned 40 United States dollars or equivalent? And I think the answer this time is, it kind of depends. Do you despise Star Wars and want it to be nowhere near Destiny? I would say skip and go next. But if you either like Star Wars enough to want to play it in Destiny, or you just kind of don't care that much about Star Wars, I would say it's worth a shot. I can't speak to the dungeon, but it is in the expansion, as it was always meant to be! And the updates to the portal are genuinely great, but those are free for everyone. I think the story team knocked that out of the park, the gameplay team did a fantastic job, and I don't know what they're feeding the visual design team, but they better keep that shit coming. This is awesome. Now, if you are somebody watching this video who has not played Destiny in a hot minute, you are probably asking, is it a good time to return to the game? I would say probably not, unless you really like Star Wars. Bungie didn't quite knock it all the way out of the park with this one, but the bases are loaded, which means Bungie has the potential to take it all the way to the championship with the next expansion. But we're still 2 down in the inning. It could all come crumbling down like that. So Bungie, if you're watching this, I'd be thoroughly shocked. But if you are watching this, the ball is officially in your court. So make it happen. Thanks to all of you for sticking around through this video. I promise that the videos coming out of this channel won't be 20 to 30 minute monsters anymore. Just the last 2 and possibly the next one, depending on how much I have to yap about contest mode. Hopefully 10 to 15 minutes after that. I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.